Good morning. I'm Dave Crouch, and this is the Public Affairs Roundtable. It's a TV show that is hosted by the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce each month, addressing various political and public issues that are going on around the county. First part of the year is always devoted to our state legislators, and we're pleased this morning to have with us Mr. Charles Sargent, our 61st District representative here in Williamson County, Glenn Cassida from the 63rd District, and Jeremy Durham from the 65th. Gentlemen, we're glad to have you with us. Jack Johnson is out of town and is unable to be with us this morning, but we've got plenty of talent to fill up an hour easily this morning, and we appreciate your presence. Our guest host this morning is Pat Anderson. Pat is the chairman of the Williamson County School Board, and we appreciate your being with us this morning, Pat, to provide a little local color to the education issues. As most of you know, this show is going to be dedicated to education. I thought by splitting our wrap-up shows into two separate shows that we would have plenty of time to cover all the issues that came up during the legislative session this year, but as I was trying to sort through all the things that were pertinent to education this year, I found out we're going to have a tough time getting through everything this morning. So I'm going to move as fast as we can and try to leave some time for questions at the end, but it's going to be tight, let's put it that way. First of all, this morning we have Mr. Mike Leventhal from the Tennessee Men's Health Network, and he's got a special presentation to make.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce for allowing me on the agenda this morning. I am Mike Leventhal. I'm the Executive Director of the Tennessee Men's Health Network, and for those of you who are unfamiliar, we are the state's premier resource center for men's health. Think of us as the office on men's health for Tennessee. And since 2003, our mission has been simple: to reach men where they live, work, play, and pray with health prevention messages, early detection health screenings, patient navigation, and most importantly, advocacy. June marks Men's Health Month, a time in which health professionals heighten the awareness of preventable health problems and encourage early detection and treatment of diseases among men and boys. Last week, we were honored to recognize Representative Charles Sargent, our 2014 Legislator of the Year. And I'm here again in Williamson County to present yet another award. The recipient of this award I've known personally for almost a decade. He has been very proactive within the men's health movement on Capitol Hill as a member of the leadership team. In addition, he practices what I preach every day: eating right, exercising, and going to the doctor on an annual basis. Representative Cassida, on behalf of our entire organization, I'm pleased to present to you our 2014 Outstanding Legislative Leadership Award. Thank you, and we appreciate all that you do on behalf of the men's health movement in Tennessee.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Congratulations, Glenn. We're going to start off this morning with a couple of items that don't pertain to the secondary schools, but pertain to Columbia State Community College, because they were the recipient of a couple of things this year on from the legislature that were exciting. First of all, the funding for the new campus. Charles, give us a quick update on that and where we stand and when that campus will be under construction.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you again for having all of us here every last Monday of every month, and I do appreciate it.
Fourth Monday.
The fourth Monday. That's right, because the last Monday, that's the one I didn't count right. Thank you for reminding me. There was 5 Mondays that month. As far no, we're very happy, very excited about Columbia State. This year we were able to put in the budget basically $34 million to start the construction on Columbia State. As you know, last year, 2 years ago, we put the money in to buy the land over there on, I just pulled the blank. Liberty. On Liberty Pike.
Right.
And this year we have the money to move the project. I believe some people here from Columbia State, Janet Smith, president, is here. And there'll be a groundbreaking, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but July the 17th or 18th, July the 18th, we'll start moving the ground, and hopefully that the campus will be open. There'll be 3 buildings built at a cost of about $38 million. and that will open up hopefully for the spring of 16 semester. So it will take about 18 months to build those 3 buildings, and it's very, very exciting. The delegation has worked on this for a number of years, trying to find the right location and get the funding, and this year we were able to move that funding along, and so very excited about that. And I know Janet Smith, is the president, is also excited.
Dr. Smith, if you want to stand and let everybody see you, we may get you to come up here just a moment and explain the details of not the details, but the overview of the Tennessee Promise bills that went through the legislature this year. But that's the other point that I wanted to mention. But as I understand it, the Hope Scholarship was basically rolled out to everybody for at least a couple of years to make sure that anybody that wanted to complete community college could receive 2 years of education at taxpayer expense. Is that?
No. The last part of that was
that's why they
incorrect.
Okay.
This has no tax dollars are going into this.
Okay.
This is strictly the Hope Scholarship that we have, the lottery scholarship or the Hope Scholarship we have, has a reserve of about $390 million. They are taking some of that reserve money and putting it over into the Tennessee Promise. So there's no tax dollars whatsoever in this fund. So they're switching that money that they had in a reserve account, really excess reserves. They're taking that money, putting it into the Tennessee Promise. So all the money will come from scholarship dollars, actually,
Right.
from the Hope Scholarship transferred over.
Okay.
And the reserves, as they build up again in the Hope Scholarship, they'll be transferred into that fund. And the other thing we have to realize that this is not a first dollar scholarship. And I know this is going to be maybe hard to understand. What we call it is a last dollar scholarship. By that, what I mean, you would have to apply for your Hope Scholarship, your Pell Grants, all your other grants that are out there. You have to apply for those. And then if there is any money left over, then that Tennessee Promise would come in and pay for that. They're looking at, they believe that the Tennessee Promise will pay somewhere about $850 because of all your other scholarships, your Pell Grants and all those will have to come first.
Right.
And that will be the last dollar. So they're looking at, they think it's going to run about $850 award to these students. But please, there's no tax dollars in that. This is strictly coming from the lottery proceeds, and I know that's a little misunderstood. They think we're putting tax dollars in. It has nothing to do with tax dollars.
I'm glad I misspoke so we could clear that up. So
Thank you.
That's been a huge program of the governor's this year to make sure that anyone that wants to receive that 2-year degree can get it, because so many of the jobs are going to require that as time goes forward, from what we understand. So,
And Dave, the thing on that, he had that 12 to 18 months ago, he pushed the drive to 55. And that drive to 55, and this follows up on that drive to 55, that he wants to see 55% of the graduates have a degree, or 55% of Tennessee citizens have at least a 2-year degree or a certificate degree, and then from there go on up to your bachelor's, your master's, and your doctorate.
great. Sounds good. Next, the rest of the items that I identified are more reflective of secondary school education. That's why we have Pat with us this morning. And there are 4 items that I've kind of labeled my consent agenda items that appeared to have no controversy, and everybody wanted to move these along. The first of which extended the life of school buses. Is that correct, Pat? So that we can use them longer with
Yes, sir.
proper inspections.
If they go through a proper inspection and are certified to be safe.
Okay. So that, I'm sure nobody was opposed to that. Next, the cursive writing bill. Was anybody opposed to that bill? Glenn?
What was that, Dave? I missed it.
The cursive writing?
No, that was very popular in the House, very popular.
I think I noticed it was unanimous.
Unanimous,
Or practically unanimous. The Guns in Parks bill was a little bit more controversial. I noticed that our local school board was opposed to the change that was proposed. If I can, and if I misspeak again, somebody can correct me, but the way the law currently exists, the school is allowed to use the parks for educational activities, for sports activities, and the Guns in Parks changes would have allowed the carrying of guns in parks regardless of what the local jurisdiction wanted. And as the school board understood it, I'm trying to say this as concisely as I know how, but that would have prohibited the local schools from being able to use the parks because of the laws that govern educational and sports activities for schools. Did I get that sort of correct, Pat? And then, I'm sorry, Jerry.
Sort of, because the law prohibits the firearms on school campuses and where students are present.
Okay.
And so the fact that they would be in a park that we use with a firearm, that was contradictory.
Okay.
The issue is whether it was on school grounds or whether it was just where school activities were present. So if the bill had passed, I suspect you would have seen some language to address that. I don't know which way the legislature would have gone, but I know that was a lot of heartburn that people had. It was centered around, is it just places on school property, or is it any park where a school might use a facility? So that was really where the conversation centered on toward the end of that.
Specifically, the sponsor of that bill, Tillman Goins, was going to, in the well, be very clear that the legislative intent was if a school used a park, it was then a school park. And permit holders is what this debate's about. Not everyone can bring a gun to a park even today. You've got to go through the permitting process. But it was going to be even further defined with legislative intent being, if a school uses a park, it is a school park, thus even permit holders could not bring their guns to that park.
Awesome. Okay. But that bill failed, and
That's cool.
Now, if it was being used at the present time by the school,
okay.
this is where the confusion came in. If the school was not using it, let's say on a Sunday, the school was not using that park,
Right.
then a licensed gun carrying permit holder could use that park. But if there was a school function going on, and that's where it came in, because all of a sudden, if there was a practice going on, a soccer practice going on, that's where the confusion came in, exactly how to word that bill to get it exact,
Right.
that everyone knew. You know, a licensed gun permit knew if they could or could not
Right.
carry the. So that was the confusion, especially when you looked at Cheek Park here right behind Franklin High School. That park basically is probably 90% of the time, 95% of the time used by Franklin High School, but it's a Williamson County recreation park.
Right.
And I know, I won't speak for the county mayor, he can come up and speak about this, but at one point they looked at even moving that park over to the school.
Okay.
Just move the whole land over to the school so there would not be, a misinterpretation. You know, because the licensed gun permit holders, they want to be, they want to be within the law, but sometimes when you make it very dubious exactly what time or what hours or who's there, it's very difficult, and they don't want to break the law. So that was the wording and exactly how to get that all worked out.
That's right. That's
So-
exactly right.
Is that bill dead, or are we going to see it again next year?
No, that bill will come up again next year.
Thought so. Okay. That's was one thing I wanted to understand. The last, as I'm referring to them, consent agenda items. And gentlemen, I don't know if y'all had any personal involvement in this bill, but SB 1760 prohibits walking to and from class counting toward the minimum 90 hours or 90 minutes per week of required physical activity for public schools. Really? What?
I know that didn't, that one didn't get out of subcommittee in the House. It's
Okay,
one of 2,500 bills that are introduced, and it gets next.
okay, I misunderstood that. So, I was wondering if that was really something that y'all had to deal with.
But now the Senate, you don't know. You know, with those guys, you just don't know.
We can say that Jack's not here.
He's safe today, so we'll,
Oh, no, he's not safe today. No, he's wide open game.
we can pick on him.
We can pick on him.
Next, there was a high priority from the governor's staff to, as I understand it, link teacher licensing to the test scores, to put it. Is that a reasonable perception of it? That was actually rejected by the House, I believe, unanimously, and considered a setback for the governor, considered a huge win for the teachers from the media reports I saw. Now, can anybody give us a little bit of the behind the scenes on that, or what?
I'll try, but then y'all
You try and I'll add to it.
I'll try, and then I'll let these guys correct me. The TVAS, I believe, is what they're talking about. That was not really created to measure a teacher's, basically a teacher's progress. And what was happening is you had people who were losing their licenses based upon a test that was set up and not really designed to measure that. And that's why the legislature didn't really think that it was fair, that if this is not a test that was designed to do this, why are we holding teachers to results from something that wasn't even designed to measure what we were measuring?
Okay.
And to add to that, those teachers, like a music teacher, some of the other teachers, teachers that are teaching our disabled children, there was not a good way to measure that, and they just said that, you know, why try to rate our teachers on a test score that, you know,
Right.
is not totally available to, if you teach art, or if you teach music,
Right.
it's hard to distinguish that because there is not actually a physical test for that, like there is a math, English, science test.
Right. So, again, is that something we're going to see come back next year for clarification, or is it is that dead?
I think, and Matthew Hill was a sponsor of that, and he succinctly argued that no other profession in the state do we take your license away if you fail in your testing, attorneys, et cetera. And the logic,
Maybe
the
we
House,
should.
open for debate, Dave, open for debate. But the House very firmly said, no, that is not a prudent step. And it, you know, there's a saying on Capitol Hill that the governor proposes and the legislature disposes. And that's kind of what happened then. So sometimes we just disagree, but we move forward.
Right. Great. There was also a proposal to change the teacher's salary schedule, which, and this one I tried to understand, and I never quite got my arms around it. But Pat, I understand the local school board took a position on this bill, House Bill 1381, and it directed the creation of a state salary schedule for teachers based on years of service, educational training, et cetera. Can you tell us what and our local board supported that bill, so why did we support that?
Yes, sir. Our local board supported the passage of that bill because we felt it was important to have the opportunity to reward teachers for training and experience and have that flexibility.
And we can't do that now? Is that?
We can now because it passed.
Okay. Well, I understand. And gentlemen, do you all have any background knowledge on that bill? I know that's probably a off the radar screen for.
The bonuses. Is this the bill?
We're gonna move on.
Is this the bill with the bonuses?
This is House Bill 1381 and Senate Bill 1856.
That's the problem with numbers.
we
We gotta
don't- we
have
don't
like
go- we don't go by
one
numbers.
talking point
It
or
allows
something.
salary schedules that include experience and education as a factor.
Let's move on.
That
I was trying to.
that was part of that bonus bill.
Okay.
where you could bonus money out, and with the teachers now are all on a salary schedule,
Right.
number of years and everything, this was going to be able to reward your higher performing teachers if you felt you had one, with bonuses and get them out of the schedule.
Right.
Dave got a comment like Saturday someone caught me with a bill number. And so when you see us out and about, don't give us bill numbers, give us what the bill does, or even the sponsors. We'll know immediately if you give us the topic or the sponsor.
Right.
But numbers and we just don't, so.
That,
I'll go further than that. One time, someone came up and talked to me about the delay in Common Core bill. Well, the caption didn't say it was delaying Common Core. He's like, well, it does this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he said, well, it was it was kind of a sideshow on the floor in Representative Hill. And I said, wait a minute, you're talking about, okay, that bill was amended, but even when we're on the House floor, even if it was amended 2 months ago, sometimes the caption will say something completely different than what the amendment's really trying to do.
that shows the difficulty of doing a show a month after the
Exactly.
session's over with. So I'm struggling to understand the significance of each one, and I apologize for coming up with some that were very much behind the scenes. The next one, Glenn and Jeremy, I think y'all were involved in the bill to basically say our state has no constitutional right to the federal government has no right to set educational standards in our state. Yes. Now, do we have the authority to do that? Or, Jeremy, tell us the background on that bill and what the disposition of it was, if you will.
I don't know. Give us a little more information.
Tell us who the sponsor was.
Because
Because there were 2 or 3, I think.
I'm sorry. I picked it up from Jack's website, I'll be honest with you. And
I think it was a resolution.
further states that the state and local authorities have the exclusive rights to set educational standards and that data collected should be used for the sole purpose of tracking academic progress and the needs of kids.
The thing about it is there were probably like about 20 or 30 bills on the very similar topic. Just philosophically, we believe that education should be closer to the parents. Not the federal government the Department of Education was started to desegregate the schools. I think most people would agree that that's happened. The problem is you just continue on with the department. They simply just make up reasons to exist.
Right.
I realize that Common Core was not started by the Federal Department of Education. It was actually the National Governors Association.
Right.
However, I think most of us agree that typically the closer you are to the parents, the better off education policy comes from. And even at the state level, we have to be careful that we're not putting too much red tape on locals. Not necessarily local government, sometimes it's local government, but parents, teachers, people that are actually spending time with our children. So anytime that, we see education regulations from the federal government, we're going to be very skeptical of that. And I think that's what that resolution or bill was trying to address.
It was called the Data Accessibility Transparency and Accountability Act. I finally found that in my notes. And it was more about the use of the test data and that sort of thing than maybe it was state sovereignty, which is the way it was headlined on one site that I...
And that came out of the Senate. Actually, I think that was Dolores Gresham, Chairman Gresham's bill. And her...
I think you're right.
Yeah. And her concern is a lot of folks are fearing the federal intrusion in all areas of our life. And this was to make a statement that on education especially,
Right.
it stops.
Gotcha. Textbook Commission. There were some changes to the textbook review process. Some changes in the structure of the Textbook Review Commission.
Yes.
And Glenn, you appear to be familiar with that.
That
Come
was
back
my
to-
bill, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It fundamentally realigned how textbooks in the state were chosen. Number one, it gave legislative input. Currently, or before that date, all appointments of the Textbook Commission were by the governor. I think it's very important that those of us elected from the counties have an input on who's on that textbook commission. And it was wide sweeping, but the bottom line was it plugged parents back into the textbook decision process. And very popular bill, passed overwhelmingly. With the Republicans, it was unanimous, and it was a good bill.
Okay. Anybody? Now, there was also a bill that, and I'm sorry, but I may be somewhat misrepresenting it, but that mandated. We're going to move on. It was. Are you familiar with this bill about the textbook review process, Pat?
Yes, sir. The board actually took a position on the textbook review process, and we basically asked for more time. The current law that's in place before this new legislation was passed actually had a very defined process, which actually did allow parents the opportunity to come and review textbooks before the board adopted those textbooks.
Okay.
So this new law that was passed actually says that we will appoint individuals, parents of students in our district, to the textbook review committee, which is actually currently composed of educators in our district.
Okay. And that bill,
It was one and the, yeah, it was one and the same, Dave.
okay,
Yeah, one and
part
the
of the same bill.
Now, you need to stay off of Jack Johnson's website. He's messing you up, I can tell.
Trying to do my homework, guys. And trying to do my homework. And
Go to one of our threes. You'll be much more well-informed.
You know, I should have done that. I pull stuff from every direction. I normally stick to the Tennessean, but you know, this month that was already timed out of their website, so I had to go dig a little deeper. This one I think you'll probably be a little more familiar with, but there was a bill that limited the lobbying expense of local boards that was presented, I think. And Jeremy, I think you might be familiar with that one. So tell us.
I think I've heard of that one.
Tell us what that was concerning. And
Well, anytime you talk about taxpayer-funded lobbying, people get very upset. And right now, every county department is subject to a line item except our schools. And it's either, $270, $280 million budget. We're talking about $30,000. And I was like, you know what? If we can give taxpayers an extra level of protection against taxpayer-funded lobbying, that is something we should do. I polled it in my district. I think it was somewhere around 86, 87%. I know there was a very informal poll that had very similar numbers, and I think that if we all got together and did a poll, that's about where it'd be in Williamson County. Anytime you mention taxpayer-funded lobbying, people are not for it.
Pat, this is not a political event. I would like to remind the audience we're just trying to discuss the issues respectfully and politely. The local board had a different opinion about this bill, I think. And the one thing that stood out to me in the notes that I read is that the Williamson County Board of Education is not a member of the Tennessee Education Association. Is that?
We are not a member of the Tennessee School Board Association.
School Board Association.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us why? Or
Williamson County is kind of unique in a lot of different ways, but particularly in our education. As you know, we're the highest performing school district in the state, and recently we're designated the highest performing school district in the country.
Okay.
Because of that, sometimes there are laws that are proposed or written that may not be beneficial to Williamson County schools and the students that we serve. So we don't have an opportunity to voice that opinion other than through our legislators. We have a wonderful working relationship with these three gentlemen as well as Mr. Johnson, who's not here today. We meet with them 3 to 4 times during the legislative session. Actually, we begin in November, and we carry on through the legislative session. They keep us very apprised of what's going on with legislation on the Hill that could be beneficial or could be detrimental to the education of Williamson County students. So the board, 2 years ago, authorized the expenditure of money for the purposes of lobbying
Right,
to give these gentlemen a helping hand.
right,
They can only reach so many folks down on the Hill to express our concerns about different pieces of legislation.
right.
So we did that basically in a way to help them so that they could help be our voice here in Williamson County.
Okay.
You know, if you keep in mind, there's a lot of folks that are out there lobbying against public education.
Right. So if, I presume belonging to the Tennessee Association of School Boards costs money.
Yes, sir.
So under the bill, as you all proposed it, would school boards not be able to belong to a school board association that lobbies?
No, we exempted TSBA and TOS.
Okay. So if they don't, if we do not belong to the school board association, then the local position was that effectively we didn't have the representation.
Well, it would just be an independent lobbyist. Like the TSBA, we decided that that was something. What you don't want to have happen is you don't want to create a loophole where that, just a couple of folks could start an organization, and then
Okay.
that could get around the law. We wanted to. I mean, TSBA has been around a long time. TOS has been around a long time. That's the school superintendent's group. TSBA is a school board group.
Right.
We wanted to protect groups like that, but we didn't want to leave it open so that someone, if we said any entity, then that doesn't stop anyone from creating one. So it was just independent lobbyists or something that wasn't TSBA and TOS. We actually found out about a third group that wasn't quite as popular as those two. We ended up exempting them. We were trying to be reasonable. Again, $270, $280 million school budget. We were talking about $30,000. It was just really aimed at making sure that parents and local folks felt like that we were giving them as much protection against taxpayer-funded lobbying as possible. We're not trying to prevent people from joining TSBA, not trying to prevent them from joining TOS, and even if they had an independent lobbyist, unless a majority of the county commission really disagreed with what they were doing, they could still do it. Remember, it was a permissive line item. It wasn't saying you can't do it. It was just saying if the county commission really doesn't agree with what you're doing, then they have the option of line item.
Okay. Now, so the line item bill, I thought was separate from the lobbying, but are they tied together?
That one, well, there's two different line item bills, but yes, basically, let's say that when the school board comes to the county commission for a budget, they would talk about, we're going to spend $20,000 on lobbying, and that would give the commission a chance to talk about, okay, what are we going to be lobbying on? It just gets it out there where that, in a public setting, people can come up and ask questions. So this is what the money's going to. Is it for Common Core? Is it for homeschoolers playing sports? Is it for high-achieving school districts to have more flexibility? What is it for? It was really designed to give taxpayers more accountability to taxpayers.
Right. Charles?
No.
You look,
No, that-
okay.
I think he answered that.
Jeremy says it well as always.
Great, all right.
It was his bill, so he knows it inside out.
Is there any resolution between the local position and your position, Jeremy? Is there some way to accomplish, make everybody happy here? Or?
I don't know. I mean, I just feel like we're fighting over a crumb. $30,000 in such a high budget. I just don't see a problem with letting taxpayers have more input on something like that. Every other county department is subject to an overall line item. I mean, we're just doing it for taxpayer-funded lobbying, except for TSBA and TOS.
Right.
And there was some other organization we exempted too. I felt like we compromised as much as we could.
Okay.
And typically, when you have a bill like this that changes how much power a local board has, it usually is dead on arrival the first few years. I could not believe, to be honest with you, that was within 3 votes of passing the Tennessee House of Representatives. I could not believe that bill got that far. It was a new idea. I wanted to protect taxpayers. I had no idea that it would clear local government committee. It would get out of counter rules after 2 trips, and it was 47 for, 49 against, and 1 person voted wrong, 1 person was outside who was a yes, and 1 person was in Germany. There were actually 50 votes, I later learned. So, I mean, that actually had some legs.
So we should expect to see that again next
I
year.
don't know that I'll bring it next year, but I know someone will.
Okay.
Dave, if I might add to that, you know, last year when the board hired an attorney or gave Dr. Looney permission to utilize funds for the purpose of lobbying, you know, we did that, like I said, to help our legislators here. One of the things that we were very successful with that lobbyist and our local delegation was the passage of the High Performing School District Flexibility Act, which allows, again, like I said, we're kind of different in many ways than other districts across the state, and it has some criteria that schools had to meet in order to be designated that high-performing school district.
Right.
So they were very, you know, the lobbyist was very helpful, which actually was very beneficial for our district.
Okay. Well, fair discussion there, and that's why we have this show, is to air out the pros and cons and try to help the public and our chamber understand the difficulties of trying to make legislation that everybody can be happy with. The next item on my list is the Charter School Act that was proposed to change some of the rules affecting charter schools. Now, did that affect anything locally here, or
No.
do we,
No, Williams County was not affected whatsoever
okay,
with that bill.
so it didn't affect our own
No,
kids
just
at all?
five school districts were affected by that.
Right,
The four metropolitans, you know, Memphis, Davidson, Knox, Chattanooga. It was Anderson? There's another school district.
yeah, gotcha.
But it was only basically those five schools that were affected, or those five school districts that were affected.
You're killing me on time. I thought we were gonna be tight, but we're actually gonna have time to get to Common Core and maybe even to Sex Week, for
You know,
UT, but,
when we get to Common Core, I like to, I want to get one thing straight on the record.
go ahead.
There were two bills for Common Core. And there was one bill that came through the House to delay Common Core for 2 years. And please, gentlemen, correct me if I'm mistaken this. And that bill passed the House 83 to 16. A couple of people didn't vote, but 83 aye votes. All you need is 50. I was one of the aye votes to pass that bill. Okay? It went over to the Senate, and it failed in the Senate. Another bill came up to delay Common Core for 1 year. And all three of us sitting in this panel, including Jack, voted to delay it for 1 year. I voted for the bill. People are saying that I fought the delay in Common Core. I don't know what more you can do but to stand up and vote for the bill. And, you know, if people want to twist that around, but I just wanted to set it straight for the record that both bills, the first one, 2 years, went 83 to whatever, and it failed in the House, it failed in the Senate, and the second bill delayed it for 1 year, and all three of the delegations, we all voted to delay it to 2 years, we all voted to delay it 1 year. So, I mean, I'm on record as doing that, and, you know, Glenn, you may want to.
No, we sit right beside each other, one behind the other on the House floor, and we talked about it extensively.
Yeah.
And Charles was right there in the fight to delay it on both occasions.
Right. Now, just to be more specific here, as I understand it, the Common Core legislation on, I believe it's math and English, are the ones that were delayed for 1 year.
That is correct.
And I had a little bit of trouble understanding, but
Common Core just deals with math and English, though.
but there was some discussion about Common Core for science and social studies that pretty much is gone. Is that correct?
Correct.
That is correct, Dave.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Now, the only thing that's really changed as of this legislative session is everything's been delayed for a year in math and English.
That's correct.
Is it-
Plus the fact that a lot of school districts were having problem with even doing the computer testing.
Right.
They were not set up, they didn't have enough computers. I know we have a gentleman here from the Murfreesboro City Schools, and I believe they paid like $27 million for computer equipment to bring it up to date. I know we have probably, in Williamson County, have some of the best computers and more computers per pupil, probably than 99% of the counties. And I know we had discussion at one of our meetings that we have a meeting that they have a Wi-Fi for every 2 classrooms. And to do this testing, they were going to need they should have one for every classroom. And that was going to get expensive. Right. Plus the state, and I'm going to blame part of it on the state, we had a group of students, and Pat can probably explain this better, because we were in that meeting on a Saturday morning, and they were taking an English lit course or something, and they were taking the test where they had to do an essay on the computer. The state computer crashed 3 times in a matter of these children taking this test. So the state, so you can imagine doing an essay, and you have your train of thought, and you're typing it out, and it crashes. Right. And then 10 minutes later, it comes back up, it crashes again. I mean, the timing, even wasn't right, even I think from the state. They didn't have everything in place as far as that's concerned, and it had to be put off. Probably should have been put off for 2 years, but I mean, they'll get it down, and we'll see these bills again because we have it off for 1 year, so I think there'll be another bill coming up next year.
Pat, if you would give us the local school boards, what you all are dealing with as far as Common Core.
Well, the Common Core standards have been fully implemented in Williamson County Schools curriculum for the past 2 years. So we're pretty set on where our scope and sequence guides meet the standards that are set out in the Common Core standards. Though I think what we're kind of getting confused here a little bit with the park assessment, which is where the problem seems to be, because as Mr. Sargent said, it requires a great deal of technology, and if Williamson County, which is the top performing school district in the state, doesn't have the technology necessary to meet that need, then there's a problem. Right. The park assessment was delayed for 1 year. And the state board said that we would take the TCAP test next year, not the park assessment. But I don't know if these gentlemen know this or not, but late last week, the governor and the commissioner of education sent a letter to park assessment indicating that Tennessee would no longer participate in the park assessment. Yes. And those individuals from our state who were representative on that board in developing that assessment, they have resigned their positions, and that the state of Tennessee will bid that process out moving forward for an assessment for our students.
Okay. So if Williamson County has trouble getting ready for these things, we can imagine what some of the other school districts we're dealing with.
We have school districts don't even have the capability of the bandwidth. The band, they don't have enough service in some of these rural areas. We just take it for granted, but right. You go to Polk County, Lake County, you may not have any internet service.
Right.
And that was the victory, in my opinion, from our perspective, was that Park was initially delayed and now it's gone. Yeah. And then number 2, in the areas of science, Common Core would not be implemented. And so we've limited to where Common Core standards would be implemented, math and English, right. And the park testing has been, which is very expensive, and it forces the teachers to teach to the test. Park does, and so that was the victory this year. That was a victory.
Okay, we're going to open it up here in just a moment for questions from our audience. We like to do that. Like to hear from you all. This is not intended to be a political event, but I know how how important education is to all of us, particularly for those of us with kids. And but we want to try to keep it as even-keeled as we can. If you have a question, if you would step forward to the podium here in just a moment, and I will be glad to recognize you. Charles?
Dave, could we start on a positive note? Can we start with Dr. Smith to give us a little update exactly when the groundbreaking is and what a great, facility we're going to have at Columbia State?
Dr. Smith, if you would come forward and give us an update on that. While she is coming forward, I do want to know why there wasn't any action taken on Sex Week at UT. I just think that's the
That's Charles' favorite subject. You need to call on
travesty
him.
of our state this year.
I think their argument was it was student activities fee money, and it wasn't theoretically tax money. That's UT's argument. Obviously, I think we condemned it, didn't we?
As I say, with all kidding aside, we took the initial step, which is a resolution, which says, UT, please bring this under control. And so we initially put it back on them. I think if they don't rein it in, you will see the House and Senate act a little more firmly this coming year.
Even if it is student activities fee money, that is a tax. I mean, there's a school that takes a lot of tax dollars, and
Right.
judging from my email account, that's not what the taxpayers of Tennessee are wanting to see from their state land grant university. So I think you might see something a little firmer next year.
And let's be honest, it is behavior that's unbecoming of young people and of the state of Tennessee. It really is.
It's,
Yeah.
you know, that one just was beyond me. Dr. Smith, give us an update, if you will, on the campus construction and what's going on with Columbia State.
I'm always happy. Good morning, everyone. The groundbreaking is set for July 18, which is on a Friday, and it is at 10 a.m. in the morning. It will be on the property of where the campus will be built on Liberty Pike. And we are hoping to have everyone in the community come out and join us as we do that. And the groundbreaking, actually, the construction bids are out there now, and we the land and the movement of the dirt, that should be completed and ready. We'd already start moving dirt the day we do the groundbreaking. So it's moving, and we're extremely excited. And again, I can't say anything but great things about our delegation and Charles and his leadership. It would not be occurring if it were not for that and for all the support that we received. And so we're very indebted and very appreciative.
Tell us also about the what's going on with Centennial High School and the computer center, the technology center that's being installed there. I didn't get a chance to update myself, but I know there's something going on that sounds
There's
exciting.
just a little thing going on, just a wonderful partnership between Williamson County Schools and Columbia State Community College. Last year, there was an opportunity for a grant, and so we sat down together and talked about how we could work together with the IT need that is in our community. We went for the grant. We did not receive the grant, so we sat back down again and figured out how we could work together and move forward. And we have what is called the WIT, and that was named by one of the students who is at Centennial, came up with a logo. It's the Williamson Information Technology Center of Excellence at Centennial High School, and it's, again, a partnership between the two entities, Williamson County Schools and Columbia State. We had a news conference the other day. We will have a ribbon cutting in the fall. The center consists of one classroom that will be a totally new classroom equipped with 28 Apple computers, and then different other pieces of equipment that will be there. There will be a robotics course taught in the fall, and several other courses taught along with that. Dual credit and dual enrollment will be opportunities, as well as students who do not want the dual credit or dual enrollment opportunities. So Pat can speak to it as well. She was there, very pleased that we had the opportunity to let everyone in the community know. They're beginning to work with enrolling students, and so it's a wonderful partnership. And the principal of Centennial and one of our faculty persons, they're the people who it all belongs to because they worked hard to pull it together and make it available. So it's two institutions trying to work to meet the needs in the community for IT, and starting out with our young folks, which is where it needs to start at.
Well, from the Chamber's point of view, we thank you all for making that happen. We still have a huge deficit of people to fill those IT jobs in the county, and the Chamber's always anxious to hear of ways to get more of our kids up to speed and being able to fill those jobs. So we appreciate all you do. Pat, have you got anything to add to that?
I'd just like to thank Dr. Smith and Dr. Webb over at Centennial for working so hard to bring this together. It was a great celebration last week where we had an opportunity to make the formal announcement. And I think it's going to be a wonderful partnership, wonderful opportunity for the students in our district, and not just for the students at Centennial. It'll be an opportunity for the students across the district. And hopefully, as that program builds there at Centennial, we'll be able to expand it to some other schools.
Right.
Yeah, and I too, Dr. Webb is just a ball of energy and has taken this project and moved forward with it and has a line set up so any parent or student who wants to know more can call in and find out more information about what to do at this time. So, and like I said, we hope it is one of many other partnerships. We know it will
As
be.
a Centennial parent with a son that's very interested in robotics and engineering, we're excited to hear about that. So,
It's going to be a good thing. Very good thing.
thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Looney, I see you in the audience here. Are you, tell us.
Good morning. It's good to see everybody. I want to clear the record on two matters just so that the public's not confused, more specifically our parents. I want to first address the Common Core standards. There have never been, nor is there any indication that there ever was going to be science Common Core standards or social studies standards.
Okay.
From the inception, it was only reading and mathematics. So I just wanted to clear that record up. I also want to clear the record up about the lobbyists because I think there's some misinformation out there. The board, in consultation with our local delegation, decided to hire a lobbyist on the Republican side and the Democratic side to work both sides of the aisles because Williamson County is not represented with TSBA. At the time, we hired the lobbyist specifically for the High Performing School District Flexibility Act, which we got passed. But we did it in consultation with our delegation. In fact, the names of the lobbyists that we hired came from our delegation. The last thing that I want, this is my question. The school board has for 4 years now been very front and center on the education reform issues surrounding the state of Tennessee, everything from charters to vouchers to lobbying bills, et cetera. In fact, you might say that our school board has been the squeaky wheel. We've taken proactive positions about various different bills. My question to the gentleman is this. Common Core, although it's not delayed, it's still in place in Tennessee. The park assessment is what's delayed. Common Core is in place.
Right.
It represents the minimum standards in Williamson County. Having said that, if we were not going to implement Common Core in Williamson County, our only alternative would be to defy state law. So how would you like for the district to proceed with Common Core, given that it's a state law? Should we defy the state law and not implement Common Core? Or from your perspective, what should we do? Thank you.
Gentlemen?
I mean, yeah, the House did all we could to delay this. This is a state legislative fight, and the House is committed to delaying, if not overturning, Common Core. Couldn't get the Senate to go along with this. With that said, any help the locals could give our way with resolutions would be greatly appreciated. So to be mum on Common Core is not the help we're looking for.
Right. Charles,
No,
Jeremy?
I mean,
That-
I think he stated
Does
that
that say
well.
it all?
I think that's fair.
Very good. Got a quiet audience. I was expecting more excitement from you guys. And would be happy for one of you to step up and ask a question if you've got one on your mind. Yeah, and tell us your name.
My name is Barbara Sturgeon,
Okay?
and I'm really glad to hear you say that. I would love to see that our school board pass a resolution rejecting Common Core. Would it help if our county commission were to do the same thing in collaboration with the school board? Because I think it's always a good thing when the commission and the school board can work together. Would that help? Jeremy?
Yes. Ooh,
Yeah.
Yes, most
Okay.
definitely.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, sir?
Morning. Representative Cassidy, I want to thank you. You returned.
Can you tell us your name, please?
My name's Matt.
Matt?
I want to thank you.
Matt,
You
your last name, please?
Collins,
Thank you.
Collins. You returned your TFA survey as you promised you would, and we appreciate you taking a stand on that. Representative Sargent, you promised to return it and you haven't, so I have a fair question for you. When it comes to firearms and education, where do you stand on allowing teachers to carry or allowing parents to carry when they drop their kids off, that sort of thing?
I did respond to the NRA survey, and that's the one I was going to respond to. And Matt, you're sitting there filming me at the present time that, I did the NRA survey. They're the ones that have given me a A+ rating probably for the last 18 years, and that's the answer to the question.
You also promised to fill out the Tennessee Firearms Association survey as well.
I figured there was no use doing that because no matter what I put on the survey, it was going to be interpreted totally opposite. So,
Thank you.
And I'll say this, Dave, I serve, Charles has always been there on Second Amendment rights, and I'm proud to stand with him in our defense of the Second Amendment.
We've got time for one more question, so one more. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Daniela Kuntz, and I have a couple of questions to you. And you forgot to list one bill that also was passed for our schools. Education is fundamental for our kids, and a safe learning environment must be provided to ensure academic success, reduction of absenteeism, and savings of tax dollars. Our school buildings are loaded with indoor air toxins or pesticides and other contaminants in and around the perimeter of schools. What benefit is education if it comes with the treatment, with the threat of contracting or exacerbating neurological deficit, such as ADHD, autism, learning disabilities, and respiratory diseases such as asthma? I have two concerns, followed by questions which I would like to address. Number one, while employees in the school system are protected from health-harming substances in Tennessee schools, there is no oversight to protect the children from the same. This past legislative session, a bill, SB 2246, Public Chapter number 703, was passed, which addressed oversight to protect the children. In order to serve our students properly, this oversight needs to be implemented. My question, how can the current of lack of oversight be repaired to protect our students in schools?
Our time's limited, so if you could respond to that, gentlemen.
Typically, we leave that to the locals, don't we? I don't know of many statewide regulations dealing with that. That would, I think, be better addressed by the local school board, because I just can't imagine, unless something was very, very serious, a statewide regulation addressing some of the things you're talking about.
And we did the resolution that passed unanimously, and working with Brenda Gilmore and helped her get that through. I think that's the first step, Danielle, is that resolution.
Right.
And then, as Jeremy says, let's catch the locals on this, attention on this as well.
Right.
And work together.
I may have a suggestion. There is in Tennessee, there is this special coordinated school health, and it could be helpful to maybe involve that as an existing program to actually help with implementing even more environmental safety in schools. That is all.
Our time is up, and we really appreciate everyone's attendance. Particularly appreciate our state legislators and all they do for this county, and appreciate your willingness to be here right before an election and stand up and tell us where you are on things. And so we hope to be back again next month on the fourth Monday of the month. We'll be with our county mayor, Rogers Anderson, and talking about the capital improvements for our county. Hope you all will keep the chamber in mind, and if it would be beneficial to you all, join us and help us make this a better community for businesses as well. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Dave.